Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the elementary event in which the Watts and Locke are added to the game. So this week, or more so last week, we did end up getting version 8.7. This is basically only really affecting newer players as it affects your first hour of gameplay, as well as the first time that you go through every single one of the quest lines. However, we do have a bunch of teams to show this week, and some of them that I will be showing, if you haven't already done them, is the team for spamming all three of the gems, because we did get 3 new achievements, one for Burning Gem, one for Freeze Gem, and one for Barrier Gem. So with all the teams that we're going to be going over for the week, we do have those 3 included. With that being said, let's actually go there, because that is probably the main thing that we have going on this week. It's actually a little bit of a tamer week overall. The summer event thingy has kind of ended. Pretty standard week just overall. Most notable thing is probably the event key drop table. It is Adana, which actually we should probably go over first, because that's definitely easily the biggest thing this week, is the whole Adana event key thing. But we also get the Tina 9000 pet this Wednesday. First time it's been available specifically through a Wednesday event. So if you didn't end up getting that in the past, either from the pet thing or buying it for $5, it is available this Wednesday. Pretty strong for that mythic. It's a decent spell damage, or a decent true damage mythic. It also has a bunch of spell reduction. We have a new faction troop coming in this Friday as well for Obsidian Depth. So we'll have that with 5 troops coming in there, or, one more troop for 5 total. And yeah, otherwise pretty standard event week. Beyond that, let's go to event keys. So, should you open event keys this week? Yes, probably. Depends where you are in the game, but the answer is probably yes. It is one of the best drop tables ever that are from any of the event key drop tables. If you currently need some event keys, don't forget every single week you can go to the shop menu, go over to resources, and get 10 event keys every single week for basically free, 1,800 glory. Pretty easy to scrap together, either from Vault event weekends or even just partaking in PvP. And yeah, you can do that every single week for 10 event keys. Very, very, very useful, because if we go over to all the troops here, underneath Beast Rarity, Donna, Show All, everything that is not in drop table includes the 5 faction troops from Tinkertown, as well as Watts. No, not Watts, the other one. Locke. Locke is only from the raid shop this week, from the current raid event, where you just get him, kill the boss, and just kill the rest of the team with Tesla. And then the Immortal Titanus is not in drop table, as well as the Ace of Runes, as all the tarot cards normally aren't, as both the Ace of Runes and the Chariot are both in the Vault key drop table. Beyond that, though, why would you be opening event keys? There are 2 really big reasons. Technically 3. One is Bork, really good mana accumulator. It's an epic, so you might not have it laying around in early game. It's basically like Throw or Box Strider, both of which you probably have because they're pretty easy to get. They scale really well with magic, and you don't really get them until a little bit later in the game. However, it is still very strong even with just an average amount of magic, and the amount of destroys it actually gets to keep 100% of its mana. Whenever you explode, you only get 50% mana, whereas you get 100% from whenever you mass destroy. So things like Bork, Box Strider, Thrall, things in that category tend to be pretty good, and he has a 50% mana start since you use them with the Mech Hero class. However, the main thing you want to make sure you don't leave this week without is Tesla. Tesla is ridiculously good. It's only a legend and not a mythic, yet it is stronger than most mythics in the entire game. From a damage perspective, it is probably the top 10 in the whole game. It is that strong. It deals a very, very small amount of true damage, scattered across all enemies. However, it's boosted by all ally and enemy armor. With the enemy armor being the particularly relevant one, of course your ally armor is still nice, a little bit extra damage. However, the enemy armor as well allows it to scale through the entire game. So whenever the enemy has more stats than you, they kind of don't, because whatever their stats are, your damage is scaling up to whatever they're currently at. So the stronger they are, the stronger your ability is. She does eventually get to the point, because of the disparity between your stats and the enemy stats, where you might need to cast her 3 times rather than 2 to win out a battle. However, it is very good at 2-shotting and 3-shotting pretty much any battle in the entire game, from Explorer 12 to level 500 faction to absolutely anything. They could have 1,000 stats, and I believe she still ends up ultimately 3-shotting due to the fact of how the ratio works, as long as they have a pretty even amount of armor and HP. But yeah, there's basically anything in the game. She will be able to 3-shot or 2-shot, depending on the stat disparity between you and the enemy. Really, really good. Only 15 mana cost. Does end its turn. However, it does so much value for every cast that it does. It doesn't matter too much that it ultimately ends up ending its turn. It also gets the concentrate damage. So if you happen to kill, let's say, first slot with skulls, it'll concentrate its remaining damage on the remaining 3. so it still gets to maintain its damage, unlike things that hit all enemies simultaneously, where it ends up ultimately losing a lot of its value whenever it goes and does its ability, whereas Tesla always gets to maintain all of it. The only thing you really have to look out for with her is if the enemy has Submerge. However, since you're normally using Mech with her anyways, Mech has Dispel on extra turn as long as you have it at level 70, so you'll be able to just do that in order to get rid of the Submerge from the enemy team to allow your Adana to do its thing. And the most common team to use with it is, I have it somewhere here, I can't remember exactly where we showed it, but I want to say this one probably is probably the really meta team. Yeah, it's Bork double Tesla and is running whatever mana accumulation weapon. Normally you'd want Wand or something, but of course in this particular situation it is Underspire, so we have to use Adana. But yeah, Bork into double Tesla into your hero doing something as Mechanist hero class is generally the strategy for her, more often than not. You can also go like Empowers and stuff like that, but this is normally the way to go if you're building like pure Adana, pure Tesla build. Is going double Tesla, getting all the mana accumulation she needs to keep casting. Keep in mind, she doesn't get 50% mana storage since she isn't a mech, but you would just be using your main mana accumulator, getting all your mana that way, and getting her up very quickly. And you just cast Tesla again, and if you for whatever reason need a third Tesla, you just go cast your mana accumulator again, and then go back down the line. Even if they have spell reduction, you'll probably get them down in 4 casts instead of 2 or 3. But yeah, it's a really, really strong troop, and you do not want to leave this week without double Tesla. I highly, highly advise, if you have like any amount of event keys laying around, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, if you don't have double Tesla, you need to have it before the end of this week. It is just so absurdly good and will help you out throughout the entire game, especially if you're still in early game and don't have better damage options yet, as this will hold you over pretty much for the entire game. Obviously, there's game mode restrictions where you're not going to be able to use her, but in anywhere where you are allowed to use her, she will be your best option for a very long time, especially this in combination with the Maelstrom Daganov. Like those two in combination, or even just generally, like using one or the other, those will last you so long as far as how much content you could do between using one or the other, depending on which one is better in the given situation. Whereas, of course, she's better at taking out entire teams at the same time, whereas the other thing is really good at taking out one at a time with insta-kill. The other reason why you might want to throw event keys, though, do keep in mind, it is a pretty low chance that you can end up getting it. 1 in 4,000 event keys or so should have an Iron Hawk in it. That does mean if you want to get double Iron Hawk, it's like 8,000 event keys, and triple is like 12,000 event keys. Obviously, if you don't have a lot of event keys, then you probably shouldn't be going for that many. It's probably better just to go for 4,000, 8,000, 12,000 diamonds and target it whenever it rotates around in Soulforge. However, Iron Hawk, absurdly good. Best farming trip in the entire game. Its main purpose is to quick kill Vault Event weekend. So whenever there's a Vault Event weekend, I believe we have another one in 2 weeks from now. Whenever there's a Vault Event weekends, you could use various Iron Hawk teams to get the quickest win rates in the game. Either Sister Superior into Dust Devil for the 25 damage range, if they have a little bit more durability, which is mostly for Paloozas, or if you're just running Standard Explorer, things like Cinder Mirage have low enough durability where you can actually still get away with a 20 damage win, where you just run triple Iron Hawk into a Dust Devil, and that Dust Devil will kill them. Even though it only does 5 damage, every time you cast a spell, you'll do 5 damage to all enemies, stacking for a total of 20 damage in this situation, whereas the other one gets to stack it for 25, but is slightly slower since you have to click on 2 casts instead of 1. But overall, yeah, really great troop, mostly used for Vault Event weekends, but the amount of extra loot that you'll get from Vault Event weekends could be anywhere from about a 10 to about 40% increase compared to whatever you're currently using. So it is pretty strong, since Vault Event weekends are, of course, the best time to farm resources, and this is greatly increases the speed at which you could do so. So obviously in most other contexts, it's pretty bad. It doesn't really do too much as far as its ability and its final trait. However, in the context of winning quickly, it is the best you can get in the entire game. So really, really good, though from event keys, very rare, 1 in 4,000-ish from event keys or so, as it is competing with 3 other mythics. If you do end up missing, 2 of them are kind of bad. The Ratchet, I think this is the first time he's been in event key drop table. I'm not 100% certain if he's actually even in drop table right now. However, if he is, this is the first time he's been available to be targeted since he's been available a couple months ago, whenever it was. He was like 2, 3, 4 months ago. I'm not 100% sure if he's in drop table right now, but if he's not, that's actually a good thing, not a bad thing, as that increases your chance of getting the actual 2 good ones of Iron Hawk and Tina. But he might be in drop table. I actually have no clue. I couldn't see it in global chat, so if any of you have seen him, let me know. But if he's not in drop table, that's more good than bad, since it increases your chance of getting Iron Hawk and Tina 9000. Sparkinator is pretty much just dead content. However, Tina 9000 is not bad. It's pretty much the overall best spell reduction troop in the game. It has only 50% spell reduction, which is a bit worse than some other troops. However, it has really high skull damage while also having an absurdly high amount of true damage. Very similar to Tesla in that regard. It doesn't actually scale off of its off of like any amount of damage here. It does for its skull damage, but its ability itself doesn't scale, so it's not as good as Tesla in that regard. However, the main thing that it has going for, aside from its nice amount of true damage that would normally secure at least 1 kill, as long as it double taps something, is the amount of armor gain it gets. It is a pretty sizable amount, And that combined with his spell reduction, if the enemy is using physical damage spells, is a huge amount of tankability. As most other spell reduction troops in the game that are really high tend to not really have too much of a way of gaining durability themselves. So to be able to have both while also still having a nice amount of damage pressure off of both skulls and ability is really nice. Because a lot of other ones that are tanky either tend to just be purely tanky, or they just don't do enough follow-up to really matter. Whereas Tina 9000 does do enough follow-up where you actually would legitimately use one or even two on a team in some situations, like in mech restrictions. While Tesla is normally more damage, if you're specifically a mech restriction, Tina 9000 is as strong as you have, feeding it with Bork and just running double Tina 9000 as your damage, or Tina 9000 with the Immortal Titanus as your damage. Both end up working out really well. But long story short, open event keys this week. With that being said, I didn't actually peek at it earlier. What's in Soulforge this week? Is there anything relevant to mention in synergy with that? I'm pretty sure there isn't, but let me just go double check real quick. 50% mana start to all undead. Yeah, there's not much to really mention here, it looks like. Alright, just making sure. And as far as weapons, there is one that you probably want to end up picking up. It is the drill, wherever the drill is in all this mess. Obviously, if you need any explodey weapon or anything to run for a specific team this week, obviously pick that up. However, if you were to pick up any one weapon, it is probably the drill shooter. The main thing that's relevant about this, watch you see coming up, it looks like a pretty standard just crate 2 color weapon. However, it does have a 20% chance to insta-kill the first enemy. And out of any weapon that has this, there are very few of them. But of any of them that have it, this is the loopiest of them all. While it doesn't feed mana back into itself, unfortunately, it does feed a ton of red and yellow, and you can kind of hope that it feeds into something else onto your team, or, you know, build into a team where you can end up feeding them. For example, Bork, that ends up using yellow, and then you cast your Bork, which is no mana conflict with this, and then boom, you get full mana again, and then just keep going back and forth between Bork and Drill Shooter. A couple other ways you could do it too, but Bork's probably the most convenient way of doing it. Bork, Drill Shooter with something else on your team, possibly double Tesla, and just kind of going down that route. Because, of course, if you get an insta-kill off of that, that makes Tesla's damage even more concentrated. So you might be able to get a kill one turn quicker, because the true damage that it has will be concentrating on only 3 troops instead of 4, which might be enough to secure a kill where she otherwise wouldn't have ended up securing a kill. But yeah, overall, not that bad of a weapon. Not used that often, but in mech-related restrictions, which we have a lot of this week, it tends to be pretty good at that, like Adana restriction, mech restriction, stuff like that. Particularly Adana, where you're forced to have to use specifically Adana weapons. With that being said, let's get into all the teams. So for the raid event this week, we have, of course, Adana restriction. Of course, you do have to use the lock. He is available for 210 gems. You can get the weapon in him. He ends up having extra damage against the boss. He basically is using one-shot the boss and then kill out the rest with Tesla. It's pretty much just a standard Tesla build, except you have to replace one of the Teslas with block, which does overall slow down the battle. However, it is forced to be able to get the double score, so do make sure you use him. He does end up having a boost ratio based on their attack at a 3-to-1, so this will allow him to one-shot a little bit deeper than a few other raid troops would otherwise be able to. And if you don't end up getting the one-shot, Tesla could probably clean up whatever's remaining on him, or end up using the pokes off a Drill Shooter as well. And you're basically just doing the Bork Drill Shooter combo we were mentioning earlier, spamming your Tesla until you win, and doing the lock just for one-shot on the boss. You could even do it the other way around if you really wanted to, though. It will block your mana a little bit. Again, I just figured doing it this way. It's a little bit less safe doing it this way, but you're generally going to win quick enough that you should be able to go get the one-shot on the boss still in this format before it ends up getting cast on you. For their slightly lower rarity team, we're running with the Bombot strategy. We're just using lock right up front to go get his mana quicker. We're going all in on the weapon to start mana accumulating and getting mech resummons because we're using Bombot. Bombot, like a lot of mechs this week, I believe it's Adana and mech, yeah, it is, have 20% extra stats this week. And Bombot's interesting. It's basically Guard's avatar, but you can only cast it once because it destroys itself after casting. But it's very similar to a Mythic that boost ratio is at a 2-to-1 based on all armor. It has the exact same boost ratio. So the biggest downside, of course, is you only get to use it once, so you can't really armor buff it like you can with Guard's Avatar or something similar. However, with 20% extra stats and how heavy mech your team is going to be, giving all that extra armor bonus, it is going to be doing a lot of damage. And this is only a common, so very accessible if you happen to get really unlucky with Teslas or something. I do highly advise getting those Teslas. But if you truly do not end up getting the Teslas if you don't have that much loot laying around, yeah, you can just settle with Bombot. Just cast it, get your resummons off a mech, and then win off of that. Basically, go one-shot the boss with this, go and Bombot to kill out the rest of the team, and if you somehow still haven't win, you can get a resummoned mech team and just use the remaining mechs to go and kill out the battle. Also, keep in mind, he does have double magic, so you can use your lock as your primary damage source. It's a bit worse than, obviously, if you're using Tesla or something similar. However, worst comes to worst, if you truly had to win a battle, his double magic pokes should be enough to clean up whatever's left. As far as the faction, we have 2 faction events this week, one on Tuesday, one on this weekend. The weekend one is a brown-purple restriction, and I am actually forgetting which one is for tomorrow. I think it is, I'm gonna go double check. so I don't mention the wrong one, is for Tinkertown tomorrow and Obsidian Depths on Friday. Obsidian Depths I already know is brown purple because that's the one I just made teams for. However, what was the other one again? I think it's yellow something. I just don't want to mention the wrong thing. It is yellow-red. I was almost going to say yellow-brown, so good thing I checked. But yeah, it is a yellow-red restriction for tomorrow. So as far as teams here, we have access to obviously Atlanta Quick Kill. We do have to get a little bit more creative with the mana accumulator, so we're just using Ehe Cattle to feed yellow into it. But otherwise, pretty standard Atlanta Quick Kill team. For the higher rarity team, we're running, you guessed it, the Super Meta Tesla team. So when you're allowed to use absolutely anything with Tesla, this is the team I was actually looking for earlier. This is like the Tesla team you tend to make. It is Bork, Wanda Stars, and the double Tesla as mech hero class. Bork ends up feeding all your initial mana. Wanda Stars is to get rid of any kind of submerge barrier, anything like that, but also to be able to bless your team so we don't end up getting frozen or any other annoying stats effect. And then, of course, and also use every color since Bork will be feeding into it. And then, of course, just Tesla spamming until you win. Most battles will die in 2, and otherwise you would normally need 4 or less to be able to win out a battle with it. But you basically just go and mass mana accumulate, cast Tesla, task Tesla. If you somehow still haven't won, mass mana accumulate again, and then Tesla, and until you end up winning. And that should be enough if a 2 cycle to end up winning a battle, but most battles will die in 1 cycle. As far as Pure Faction team, it's basically just Smashlebot into Steam Whistle. Smashlebot does a lot of mana accumulation while still doing a little bit of damage. We're using Detectabot here for a little bit of mana accumulation, but you can just go a third Smashlebot. It's mostly just to get a little bit more team bonus and to cover more colors. Biggest issue with this place is every single thing here has a chance of self-destructing, but the Whistle ends up gaining a bunch of resummon, so your team by the final fight will be something completely different. Ideally, you'll want to have at least 1 Smashlebot going into the final fight, but as long as you still have your Whistle, which is the most important thing on your team, as long as you have a Whistle into 1 Smashlebot on your team by the final fight, you should be okay with his amount of resummon. There are some junk summons you can kind of do, but for the most part, those are the main 2 you kind of want to be prioritizing. Smashlebot for your main amount of mana accumulation, and then just getting your resummon whilst just poking them down, whittling them down little by little. As far as the mech class events, this Thursday, you specifically have to use mechs from Adana. With that being said, we're basically just doing a Bombot rush. Just using Bork to get all the mana accumulation rolling, doing the Bombots to go and kill at the enemy team. And within 2 Bombots, you should be able to win out every single one of the battles there. For Underspire, we have a restriction of specifically Adana. So anything within Adana. This is technically the same restriction as Raid. However, you can drop the lock for whatever you want. So in this case, of course, we're dropping it for a second Tesla, as the second Tesla is way stronger, since we're not forced to have to use the other troop that gives us double score. And for the lower rarity team, we're basically just going crazy with a billion Bombots. And of course, just resummoning our team off of the weapon. This is a little bit riskier to do, but it's a surprisingly high amount of damage. You could probably get all the way to like floor 3, floor 4, depending on what your stats are, just cycling down the Bombots and winning out the battle. There will be a few battles that will kind of get in your way with Submerge or some other similar mechanics, spell reduction. But for the most part, it should end up working out pretty well. And then just hoping that you get some okay resummons. And of course, one nice thing about this at the low rarity range is these weapons can summon stuff you don't own. So it could summon any Adana troop. It could end up summoning, you know, it could summon the Immortal. It could summon the Tina. It could summon absolutely anything. Even summon a Tesla. But yeah, if you're missing some of the options, which I highly advise not doing, go and use event keys to try to get the double Tesla. But if you are missing the Teslas, this thing can summon Tesla, as well as any of the other things that you might not have from the kingdom, like a Tina 9000. So ends up working out really, really well. Oh yeah, other teams. Oh yeah, I wanted to go show these other few teams. Where was it? Where are we down to right now? We are down to, I'm losing track. Mech, Underspire low. I just went over that one. Oh yeah, the faction team. So these are for the weekend event. This is for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We mentioned this earlier. This is a brown-purple restriction from Obsidian Depths. For the low rarity team, once again, just standard Atlanta quick kill. Just a nice, easy way to go about it. If you have access to it, it's generally worth doing. And then the next team we have is using the new Maelstrom guy. There's a couple different ways you could build this. Either Thrall Leprechaun, as you do have access to that. Just use Thrall Leprechaun, Thrall in front of it, Leprechaun behind it, and go and just feed it a bunch of mana accumulation. Actually, Thrall could technically be anywhere. Leprechaun doesn't need to be behind it just so it doesn't block on green, though. But you could either do Thrall Leprechaun, or in this case, we're just doing Double Pharaoh. So Double Pharaoh, of course, is brown convert, has those 2 explodes per turn for 4 total. And we're just using Wanda Stars, get all that mana accumulation, feeding that into the Maelstrom, and then just casting Maelstrom out until we win. Keep in mind, Underworld specifically, not Underspire, but Underworld, which is what this game mode is for, the weekend Underworld, does not have any immune to insta-kill currently. So you can just simply cast this 4 times at the later range, 400, 500, at any level, and it will win out a fight. All you have to do is cast this 4 times, so everything on the team is just mass mana accumulation to go get that done. As far as the pure faction team, it's basically just spam the axis. However you say that, axis. But yeah, just dragging from this place, you just spam this until you win. We are going to be getting a new guy that could probably go into second slot here. We use Dark Golem in first as a new guy in second, and then double. But that's really up to you how you want to run it. Worst comes to worst, you can even just run forward to legend. Really just comes down to how you want to run it. But yeah, we are getting a new troop on this weekend for it, so you might be able to put that into second slot just to get a little bit more team bonus and everything if you feel like you need it for the stats, or if you feel like its ability ends up helping you more. But because of enchant and everything, you can just go for the damage pressure and 3-4 up on the dragon and just damage pressure that way. It's one of those faction events where you're basically just spamming AoE until you win. There's quite a few of them that are like this. It's basically just whittle them down slowly over time until you end up winning the battle. No real strategy other than just mass mana accumulate for it and just try to win quicker than they do. So these next three I want to go use. So as we mentioned earlier, there are 3 new achievements that were added in the patch. If we go over to achievements, you can see this on whatever platform you're on. Of course, on Steam right over here. But if you're on Xbox, PlayStation, anything else, you should still be able to find it in wherever achievements are on those platforms. But we got 3 new ones. The barrier spam to 100, the burning one, and the freeze one. The freeze and burning are very easy to do. The barrier one is kind of annoying. All of these are just from one really quick battle, so you can kind of see the disparity between them. Though both of these two could have done it in one battle. If I just stalled the battle a little bit longer, they could easily do it in one single fight. However, the barrier one's going to be a little rough. One thing that you might want to look out for is it's different per platform, and I don't think there's any way to check just by looking at them here. Oh yeah, you can, never mind. Uber Doom Skull. Let's see, do we have a barrier option? Keep in mind this is different. Only PC Mobile would have it if I do find one here. But do check on whatever platform you have to see if in Outer Ring you have Barrier Gem. We do not this week, unfortunately. But keep an eye out. Wait, maybe it's in the middle. Let me double check. Because these 3 can have it too. Come on, 1 Barrier Gem? No. So there was no Barrier Gem, but double check on your platform to see if any of them say Barrier Gem up there. Because if there is, that would be probably the easiest way to get the Barrier Gem done, is wait until there is a PvP restriction that has Barrier Gem, ideally with a lot of mana accumulators, and then just spam a bunch of board clear until you get all the all of the Barrier Gems to fall into the board, and then just keep doing that over and over again until you've gotten your 100 Barrier Gems. But we will go show the 3 team alternatives, and we'll just do it in, I guess, in a Mirage real quick. So we will go show all 3 of these as far as farming. We'll start with Burn and work our way down. So for burning, this one's really easy. You basically just build any team you want around Fire Spirit. You don't need all this extra high rarity stuff if you don't want. Fire Spirit is the only thing you need. It's a rare. It converts all gems of a chosen color into burning gem. Everything else around it is just for extra support, and that's pretty much the whole premise here, is using a bunch of extra support around it in order to get it done. In this case, we're using Flaming Ani. Not only does he convert 2 reds into burning gems, which of course is what we need, but the other thing that's really useful about him is whatever you're feeding into, you want to make sure it's something that it feeds mana into, aka using red. So, of course, whenever we do this, we're going to feed a ton of red. So we're going to get a ton of red into whatever our red guy is. Then we go and explode the entire board, go and get all of our burning gems, and then you just keep doing that back and forth until you either accidentally win the battle or until you have all the burning gems you need to go and get the achievement completed. In this case, we accidentally won the battle, but you just keep doing that over and over again until you have reached your objective of getting all the burning gems. Next, we have the most annoying one, but is usable. We have basically just a yellow spam into the yellow flower dragon. There are basically only 2 trips in the game, unless I missed one. There's only 2 trips that create barrier gems currently. It is this thing creating 5, the flower dragon, and the immortal Lucifer, once you have her 4th trait, or her 3rd trait from getting her to level 4, she will end up creating a barrier gem per turn. Both of these would be fine, but they both do take quite a while to end up getting. Also, I'm doing it in a battle right now where we're going to be one-shotting. You probably want to be doing this in a higher battle, like Explore 12 or something, as we will one-shot from doing this, which will make it so we don't actually get the mana accumulation from it. However, if you just have the immortal, it's perfectly fine. We're just getting the 1 per turn. So over time, we would just automatically end up getting all those barrier gems. So we just go get bored, get our 1 per turn, just keep doing that over and over again. And if you're in a battle where you wouldn't end up one-shotting immediately, you could go do this and get your 5 as well. Though I am doing a battle currently where we would end up winning. But worst comes to worst, 1 per turn, just clear the board over and over again. Isn't that bad? Obviously, it would take a bit longer than the other 2, but it is definitely doable. And with this, if you don't end up killing the battle, you can just then go for your mana accumulation, get the 5 barrier gems, and do it that way as well. Overall, it's by far the slowest, and it might be one that's worth considering just waiting until there's a barrier gem in PvP, as if you just keep board clearing when there's a barrier gem falling from the sky during one of those PvP restrictions, then you can probably get it done very, very quickly. It will probably be quicker than bothering with this, but if you want to get it done immediately, just doing the 1 per turn off of this, or doing a stronger battle where you get 5 at a time from this from board clearing, are basically your main 2 options, unfortunately. Freeze Gem's quite a bit better. This you just do a bunch of mana accumulation around Daughter of Time, and she can create 5 at a time, which goes pretty well because she creates Hourglass Gems, so she gets a pretty consistent infinite loop off of this. So all you have to do is go do your Leprechaun, ideally have an Hourglass Gem so you can just go straight into your extra turn, and then we just infinitely mana accumulate. Ideally we get our extra turn here, we do, and now we just keep going back and forth between Thrall and Daughter of Time. Does look like we're going to accidentally win the battle once again. You can do a stronger battle if you want to make sure you don't accidentally end up winning the battle. But this is all you have to do. Just Daughter of Time, then Thrall, or Box Strider, or anything that has Mass Destroy. You could even use, what's his name? Why did I forget his name? Not Box Strider, the mech guy. How did I forget his name? Bork! Because of the bees, they're so similar. But yeah, you can use Bork as well. Any option that just Mass Destroys, and you just do this infinitely until you end up getting all the Hourglass, or not Hourglass, all the Freeze Gems that you need. Because we're doing this for Freeze Gem, not Hourglass Gem. Though, this would work for Hourglass Gem, of course, as well. And I think that's the achievement, right? Yep, that's the first one we've seen actually pop up. And then, of course, there we go. The 100 Freeze Gem achievement. Probably the easiest one of the 3. Burning Gem's pretty solid as well. It's the Barrier one that's the only annoying one. Oh, nice! How convenient. We did the Freeze Gem achievement. We get 2 free Ice Steeds. Nice. Anyways. But yeah, those are the 3 teams. So, oh wait, no. Did I not show the other one? No, that was all 3. No, that was all 3. Losing track of things. But anyways, that's all the teams. All 14 of them will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment if you want to go and copy-paste any of them for anything throughout the week. But yeah, those are the 3 new achievements from 8.7, and if you're a veteran player, pretty much the only thing 8.7 did, since most of it just affected the early game questing. So, other things we have going on this week. One thing to mention, I guess PvP is somewhat coming close to an end. It's still a little bit early to kind of be mentioned that, but we have 3 weeks left, so if there's any objectives you want to get done for PvP, it is the final 3 weeks to clear out if you want to go get your 180,000 points, if you end up buying the pass, or if you want to end up completing out any of the seasonal goals, last 3 weeks to get that done. And some of them are time gated, so you can't just infinitely farm them, so if you still want to go and get any of those done, final 3 weeks to do so. Beyond that, games. As far as things that we have going on this week, Tuesday we have the faction event for Tinkertown, which is a yellow-red restriction. Wednesday we have the pet for Tina 9000, which is a mythic pet, which is the first time it's been available at 100% rate. Has been in a drop table for a little while, but this is the first time it's been guaranteed. So if you haven't gotten it already, you still need to upgrade it. It's available this Wednesday. Thursday's mech class event. Overall, pretty good hero class, particularly this week when it has 50% or 20% extra stats, and it gives 50% mana start to all mechs, which is really good. So you tend to use it in pretty much any team you're using, even a single mech in. And there's a lot of situations, even if you're not using any other mechs, where you still use it. Mostly because it has 50% mana start into Dispel while having a lot of barrier at start of battle. So it's a nice mix of durability while still having Dispel and a half mana start. It's kind of like Titan in that regard, but Titan doesn't have Dispel, whereas this does. So if you're ever up against a lot of Submerge, a lot of barrier teams that are really important not to have that mechanic, like Tesla needs it, any of the Flower Dragon or Stellarex needs it so they don't get submerged, stuff like that. It's really good troop just to kind of plop down to have. Because 50% mana start into barrier into Dispel. Really, really strong combination that it has. And this Friday, as we mentioned, we have another faction event specifically for Obsidian Depths, which is a brown-purple restriction, which will also be coming in with a new layout as well as a new troop for when that ends up coming around. Beyond that, other things. We already kind of went over it earlier, but just to reiterate on the raid event, make sure to always use the lock on your team as it has double score. You can also use it as a damage source as it will also have double magic. Keep in mind, it does not have to be upgraded to have double score. It simply just has to be on your team. But if you are planning on doing it as a damage source, you probably do want to be upgrading it. But beyond that, this whole event can basically be summarized as put Tesla on your team, put Bork on your team, and spam Tesla until you win. If you own Tesla, you should be using Tesla. If you don't own Tesla, you should be throwing event keys until you get Tesla. This is like a last resort kind of team. You should be using Tesla. Make sure to use Tesla Bork. But if you don't end up getting lucky or have no resources or just started recently, you might not be able to. But if you do have access to Tesla, get it. Or if you don't have it, get it. Actually, let's see. Let's go to test real quick. How many 50 pulls will it take till we get a Tesla? Let's see. So we got 2 legends, neither Tesla. We're now 100 in, no Tesla. 150, no Tesla. 200. Oh, gosh, we just got like 7 legends. We're like 200 in, no Tesla. 250, no Tesla. We're going to get everything but Tesla. 300. There she is. But yeah, normally want to get 2. Okay, let's see how long it takes to get 2. 350. 400. 450. No mythic yet. 500. 550. Okay, we're definitely getting a little unlucky. 6. Well, luck has... Okay. Okay, this is good. 100% confirmation. Ratchet Cogbolt is in drop table. I gotta screenshot that. That's funny. That's why it's already recorded. You guys can see it. Well then, okay, I can confirm Ratchet Cogbolt is indeed in drop table. But nice, we even got 1 to 2 good ones as well. Tina 9000. Unfortunately, no Ironhawk. So yeah, it's going to be really hard to get Ironhawk. This is a double mythic pull, and we still didn't get an Ironhawk yet. It's a 1 in 4,000 chance or so. So yeah, I wouldn't really go too much until Ironhawk unless you're like completely loaded with keys. You probably want to wait until Diamonds because a 1 in 4,000 is very, very rare. It's probably better just to wait till you have 8,000, 12,000 Diamonds and just get your double Ironhawk, your triple Ironhawk from when it rotates in Soulforge in the future. But definitely pick up your Teslas. That took us 600. And look, we got 2 mythics along the way. Though on average, you'll get 0 or 1 on the way to that many. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. But yeah, Ratchet Cogbolt is in drop table, which could be seen as a good thing or a bad thing. He's a relatively recent mythic, so you probably already have him. But if you didn't end up getting him from that event and still wanted him, I guess you can get him. But this does make it so you have a lower chance of getting Tina 9000 and Ironhawk, which is kind of unfortunate. It would actually have been better if he wasn't in drop table for once, as yeah, he's basically just blocking other actually useful troops from the drop table. But yeah, he is 100% indeed in drop table, confirmed. But yeah, you're mostly looking for your double Tesla. Do not leave this week without it if you can help it. Anyways, beyond that, I think the only other thing I didn't go over is the new guy. He's not really that relevant, Watts. We end up getting Watts and Locke. But, of course, the references to the thing. But as far as what he does, nothing relevant. He just gives a bunch of life and armor to the weakest ally, and then barriers them. Pretty dead content troop. It is 11 mana cost, so at least a little bit cheaper than some other things that are like this, but you are never going to use this thing ever. And Locke, you're only ever really going to use for the current raid event, and then probably never touch again. But there we go. That is everything with this current event week. It can be summarized, and make sure you do not leave this week with double Tesla. That's the only relevant thing you got to do all week. As everything else is pretty tame as far as overall the rest of the objectives here. As most of the other things are, I guess on Wednesday you probably want to pick up that pet. It's for Tina 9000. Even if you don't own it, it's still a nice pet. And just picking up the faction troop and doing the faction event this week if you want to. But biggest thing by far, make sure you leave this week with double Tesla. It is very, very good. You'll run it through the entire game. You run it through a lot of game modes. And this week, it's very useful for pretty much every game mode available. It's useful for the raid event week. It's useful for Underworld. And I'm definitely going for full completion again. I did it for last week because we had the really strong blue flower dragon for the insta-kill. But we're going to do it again this week because now we have double Tesla to go run, which is so free. It's one of the freer ones we can get, especially with Bork is a really good mana accumulator. So a really good week to also go do the entirety of Underspire if you normally skip it. Might be worth considering as double Tesla Bork will just absolutely tear apart, like pretty much everything. It'll absolutely tear apart the Underspire this week. So really great week to get it done and go get all the rewards that you would normally get from a full Underspire completion. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. Pin the comment there as well as the description. We'll have all the teams that we went over. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone. And thanks for watching.